North Carolina has a lot of climbing, all different styles. Climbed Moore's Wall a lot, Looking Glass, Whitesides, Linville Gorge, Shiprock, all sort of the North Carolina classic spots. But right now we're in Chapel Hill, and there's really not any local climbing here. We're not in a place where you can, after work, you can drive somewhere. It's not Boulder, right? You can pop out of town, go do a lap on the Flatirons after work. It's a triangle. So we were gonna climb something during the week. It had to be something artificial. I think we were bored. I mean, back in the late 80s, early 90s, really, there were no climbing gyms. So we were climbing on pretty much anything you could find that was climbable, we were climbing on. So here in Chapel Hill, we used to climb at Forest Theater a lot. There was a regular crew that met up, and Jeff Coke was just there all the time, and he had everything wired, and he had names for everything. We used to call him the mayor. He was the master of finding, like, things to climb that weren't rocks.
Brings back a lot of memories. Got a really nice upright right here, Velvet Elvis, and over here we got some really nice traverses. The bottom one's called Yellow Condom. The namesake used to hang on that little tree right there. But the towers are beautiful too. Little highball, but used to go up as far as I felt comfortable on. Back in the 80s and the 90s, campus was a casual place. And one time my friend Bill Webster was climbing down on one of those walls down there doing a traverse, and a bunch of sorority girls came in and they were having their sorority rush. And they ran up and snatched his shorts down. And that's all he was wearing, and he has a tendency not to wear any underwear. Everything in here is pretty much dead vertical. There was nothing that was overhanging, and I was thinking I would like to have some place that's steeper. And I came across the pump tunnel. It's an overpass. It's just down the hill. I went down there and I said, oh my God, it's perfect. It's concrete. It's got the perfect curvature, almost like a half pipe. You couldn't bolt climbing holes into the wall because it was concrete, but you could glue to it. And I immediately went to the store and got a big old tub of PC7 epoxy and a wire brush. And the next day, I started making holes. Oh yeah, good amount of poison ivy. I'll break trail. Oh, this is great. At the time, I was actually working at Public Works, and on my lunch hour, I would go and I would break cinder blocks up, and I'd come down here, and I'd go as far as a tub of epoxy would go. And initially, it was all cinder block holes that I had manufactured. But then I started seeing like rocks like this one, and when I go on climbing trips, I would gather up little pieces, bits and pieces, and so I could have a little bit of history of places that I had been. And a lot of times I would put them in other people's packs. And I'd rifle through their pack at the end of the day. Oh, I gotta get something out of your pack. Appreciate you carrying it for me. I'm pretty sure I was the only one that glued up anything in here. And I was always concerned I might get in trouble, but I never encountered any official people. My friend John Provatero worked for the Department of Transportation, and he came down here a couple of times, but I'm sure he never said anything to his superiors. I mean, his routes are notorious.
I actually worked in the hydraulics department of the Department of Transportation, and our area was bridges and pipes and stuff, so I had access to bridge maps back then. I might have noticed that was at Arch Culvert. Anyway, I checked it out, and it looked perfect for doing a glue up. The technique to get these big rocks to stay there is I would maybe go over there or to the ditch and find 4 or 5 rocks. And we had like these saplings at the ready. And then you would put the glue on, stick the rock up, take the sapling and prop it like this into the ground and get it to stay. And then wait a day, and the next day it would be ready to climb on. We called it the Beta Center because that was the name of the building that was adjacent to it. So it seemed like a perfect name. Setting routes is probably the best work I've done. It was more interesting than working for DOT, that's for sure.
The glue up started off pretty simple, right? It was just pick up rock, glue rock to concrete. And then people realized, like, wait a minute, I could take this, either this epoxy or mix this epoxy with some sand and make holes. People started forming holes, which was kind of the early, genesis of what is now, the industrial climbing holds. The scene really pivoted towards indoor gyms, and then now you see these amazing gym facilities, routes that are changed every week, and there's all this new stuff going on. It's air conditioned, and there's a juice bar, and I think there's two sides to that, right? The one thing is there's no context, right? There's no history, but at the same time, we've grown in a way that I think has allowed us to do a lot more as a vocal community to kind of speak up for climbing. And those are good communities, and they're diverse communities, which I think is a huge step forward for climbing. I think having a larger community now that can speak up for itself as a user group is a positive out of all this growth.